Hello and welcome to Blythe Ray Business News. For this edition, I'm joined by Nigel Robinson, who's Chief Executive of Central Asia Metals Limited, or as many of us know them by their ticker, CAML. CAML is listed on the AIM market in London with a market capitalisation of around £416 million. The company has announced its 2021 full-year results, a record year, I believe. Operational and financial results look great. And the dividend payment is continuing, I think, with the highest dividend ever, but tell us more about it. We've got Nigel. So Nigel, over to you. Walk us through the highlights of the results, please.
Okay, many thanks, Tim, and good afternoon to everybody. Yes, just announced record results for CAML for the year ending 31st December 2021. Highlights of the financial numbers: record revenue of $235 million. With an EBITDA, that's earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization, of $141.5 million. That's an EBITDA margin of 60%. A lot of that is driven by high commodity prices we experienced and enjoyed throughout 2021. And that led also to a record free cash flow. And that number is important, Tim, because that's the number that we base our dividend upon. And that free cash flow for the whole of 2021 was $103.8 million. All these numbers are significantly up on the previous year of 2020, as you can imagine, with strong metal prices. That strong cash flow has enabled us to pay a record dividend for CAML as well, a final dividend for 2021 of 12 pence, making 20 pence in total for the full year 2021. And that's 45% of our free cash flow number, that 103.8 million I just mentioned. So record financial performance, very good dividends on the back of it. And also during the course of last year, we strengthened the balance sheet by paying over $48 million back to our debt holders effectively. And at the year end, we ended up with net cash position of $22.7 million. So that repayment of the debt will mean that later this year, in August, we'll have fully paid down all the debt that we took on almost 5 years ago now to acquire the SASA operation in North Macedonia.
Well, thanks for that overview. Let's just now look at some of the operations one at a time. And let's start with SASA, the lead zinc underground mine you have in North Macedonia. For a while now, you've been talking about this new cut and fill project. So an update on how that's progressing. I understand you've got like 3 components of that, but it's all geared towards getting the most extraction you can of lead and zinc for a safer, more sustainable and more economic way. But tell us how you're getting on with it.
Exactly, Tim. As you know, when we acquired the mine, we did a life of mine review, and the board approved in 2020 this transition from what's known as sub-level caving method of mining to what we believe will be a safer method of mining, a more efficient method of mining, and also dealing with our tailings, the waste that comes out from the mining process, in a more environmentally friendly way. We started that last year, and last year was all about doing the designs, making sure we have the equipment to install for what's known as a backfill plant, which is basically the paste that you put back underground, and also the reticulation, which is effectively the plumbing, Tim, that takes that paste underground to the voids that you've mined. So it's a method known as cut and fill mining. We'll build a backfill plant and the reticulation. And on top of that, for managing the waste, we'll also build a dry stack tailings plant, which is basically a filtration press. And then there's a landform that goes associated with that, where you put the tailings onto after you've taken a lot of the moisture out. And the final part, as you rightly mentioned, it's quite a multifaceted project, this in many ways, is a new decline. That's a far wider hole than we currently have at SASA, 4.5 meters by 4.5 meters. And that will enable better ventilation. It will also assist us in terms of the reticulation, easier access, quicker access, more efficient access into the working areas of the mine. The project's going very well. This year, we will start the construction of the backfill plant, and a lot of the reticulation will be put in place later this year. One of the key aspects of the project, Tim, was getting the environmental impact assessment permit. And because this is the first time anybody's done that in North Macedonia, there's been a number of questions asked by the ministry. We feel we've got comfortable with the way forward on that, but it has caused a slight delay. So we're encountering around about a 3-month delay in getting that permit, which then facilitates the commencement of the construction aspect of the project. But we're still on track for starting that this year, but we'll probably be straying into the first half of next year before we finish the construction and start the commissioning aspect of the backfill plant.
Okay, thanks for that. Let's move you now from North Macedonia and underground to the Kunrad project in Kazakhstan. Now, later on this year, you're going to be celebrating 10 years of production at
Absolutely,
Kunrad.
yeah.
I mean, very much, I suppose, the foundation on which CAML's being built. I mean, how has it supported your growth?
Well, it's been the bedrock of CAML's success in many ways, Tim. I mean, it's a fantastic project. We've been, over the life of the mine, over that past 10 years, we've been producing pure cathode copper, 99.998% pure cathode copper, at a cost around, it's averaged 55 cents per pound. That's only just over $1,000 per ton. And as we all know, copper is selling north of $10,000 per ton. So a very low cost project. It's got a life out to 2034, and it's sustained our growth throughout. As you know, we started this project back in 2010 when we listed on the AIM of the AIM market in the stock exchange. We then completed the construction and went into production on April the 30th of 2012. And as you rightly say, we'll celebrate 10 years in about 4 or 5 weeks' time that it's been constantly in production. The plant availability is tremendous. It's over 99% availability of the plant. So it's testament to the engineers that have built it. It's a robust operation. And on the back of the strong cash flows that obviously generates, and these numbers today are you know, Kunrad is obviously a part of those strong financial numbers. We've managed to build up a strong balance sheet and also acquire the SASA operation about 4.5 years ago. So it's been the bedrock of our success and growth. And as I say, it still has a life out to 2034. We estimate we've got about 120,000 tons of copper still to recover from that operation.
Moving on from Kazakhstan a little bit, I have to ask you, Nigel, as we sit here, we've got the tragic consequences of the war in Ukraine facing all of us, not just mining companies. Has that conflict in Ukraine had any impact operationally on CAML, either in Macedonia or in Kazakhstan?
Well, I think the first thing to say on all that, it's been a difficult start. The first quarter in Kazakhstan has been difficult given where the country is geographically situated. There was troubles at the beginning of the year, as we know, and that's now been exacerbated by this invasion, this war that we've got in Ukraine. And first thing to say, I must say, is our hearts and thoughts and minds go out to the poor people who are suffering in that particular conflict at the moment. But in terms of impact on our operations, it's probably too early to say in terms of macroeconomic impact throughout the world. Clearly, it's having a very, in some ways, a negative effect on many of the economies, and you know, it's definitely affecting things. But in terms of our operation itself, we're managing to continue with our sales. We have had to change some of the supply routes so we don't go through Russia. That's something which has made it slightly more difficult, but much as it's a little bit more difficult, we are still maintaining the sales route. On the procurement side, we have very few Russian suppliers, so we'll make sure that we adhere to any sanctions, and therefore we are stopping with those suppliers and getting alternative supplies. So overall, it's not having a very negative effect on the business, but clearly it's a tragic set of events which is affecting everybody globally, and we have Ukrainian staff, as you can imagine, so our hearts and minds go out to those people as well.
Thank you for being so open about that. Let's just come back to the mining. In this day and age, no one can talk about a mining company without those 3 letters ESG coming up. Presentations we see from mining companies have all got it in there. Institutional investors all need you to go through and tick the box on ESG. Looking at CAML over the years, you've done rather more than tick the box because you do your own reports on it. I think I'm right in saying that actually senior executive pay is aligned to ESG targets.
Indeed it is, yes. Yeah.
So, but let's just focus. I mean, you've had a record production year, you've had a record dividend year. What's been happening within Central Asia Metals on the ESG front, particularly with regard to things like communities? And I did note from the city presentation you gave this morning, mention of increasing numbers of female employees. But what do you want to pick out, Nigel? What's been happening on the ESG front for you?
It's quite a broad topic, isn't it, Tim, in many ways, but it's core to our business success. And we recognised, I think 3 years ago now almost, that this was, you know, the focus on this with investors had changed significantly. And this year in April, we will put out our 3rd standalone sustainability report. So I think we are for the size of company that we are, we're doing a good job on our sustainability efforts. I guess the things I want to point out, what we have done this year is we've firmed upon some targets associated with the environment. So for climate change, we are committing to a reduction in our greenhouse gas emissions of 50% by 2030. That's on a 2020 base, and also that will be net zero by 2050. But the key target is that 50% reduction, born of the fact that we've now got 100% renewable electricity at our operation in North Macedonia. And we have approval from the board to build a solar farm, which will reduce the carbon emissions at Coonrad as well. So when we take it all together across the group with various other initiatives, so changes in fuels for various pieces of equipment, plus also some tree planting, we're confident we have in place, if you like, Tim, the means to get to a 50% reduction by 2030. So that's something that's been important to us. We've been working hard on that. We've also been working hard on our water abstraction from the rivers in Macedonia, and we're committing to a target that will reduce that by 2026 by 75%. So that's a good environmental target. Water management, as you know, is a key theme of businesses these days. And I suppose the last one really on waste management, really, how we manage our tailings. With this project to cut and fill that we mentioned before, again, by 2026, we'll have 70% of our tailings will be stored in a very much environmentally friendly manner with dry stack tailings and a lot of the waste going back underground. So those are a couple of specific targets we're very pleased about. The other ones, we work hard on community, as you know. We spent $500,000 on local projects in both Kazakhstan and in North Macedonia this year. We work very closely with the communities, and I think we've got a good track record there with our charitable foundations that we've set up to help the communities. And on diversity as well, delighted to announce that Louise Rathel will be joining the CAML board from the AGM in May 26th. Louise will be appointed to the CAML board. So that's diversity at the highest level of management, but also at the lower levels. We're making sure that when we interview people, we're interviewing, I think it's a minimum 20% of female employees where we can. I mean, in some instances, for example, you're not allowed to have females underground mining in North Macedonia. We are constrained by the laws of the land. But in many other areas where we can make inroads, we're diversifying the workforce across the CAML group.
Well, finally, and it's a difficult one really, because you've had a cracking year, you're doing wonderful things. How do you build on that level of success, Nigel? What can we look forward to in the next 12 months?
Well, I think in the next 12 months, it's more of the same. We need to finish off the cut and fill project, and that won't be completely finished in this 12 months, but we're well advanced with construction, permitting, and the reticulation, as I mentioned before. The decline will have advanced. So all the projects we're doing, which will improve the SASA operation, will be further down the track on. We will fully pay down our debt by August of this year. So August 2022, we'll have no debt, providing we don't, manage to find another opportunity to buy in the marketplace. And that's something else you should see from us. We're putting a lot of energy into business development to look for that next opportunity to add to our portfolio of assets. And in terms of operations, much the same really, low cost operations across the patch. Metal prices have started and remained, should I say, high in the first quarter of this year. And we, as we look to the future, we think we'll have another successful and, financially successful year at CAML. Well,
come back, keep us updated. We wish you every success. Nigel, good to have you on the show. That was Nigel Robinson, Chief Executive of Central Asia Metals Limited, as I said at the start of the show, listed on AIM in London. That's it from the Blythe Ray Business News for this edition. Thanks for watching.